Welcome to Aussievision. My name's Liv and I'm joined here today by two relatively new faces to the Aussievision team in Troy and Joel. Looks like we didn't scare you guys away too much last time we recorded something together, so that is good news. How are you guys feeling today? How's it going?
Going all right. Knee deep in national final stages, so keen to get into a bit of Denmark and Germany.
And there's so much music around. I was at Kylie Minogue live here in Brisbane last night, and now I'm ready and raring to talk about Germany and Denmark today.
Yeah, let's go for it. I mean, we're going to do the easier national finals that are concluding this weekend in Germany and Denmark. There are obviously the Serbian and Croatian national finals running as well, which are ever evolving. So we're going to leave that to the expert teams for those ones. So stay tuned for their coverage to find out a little bit more about them. But let's kick it off with Germany. Before we jump in, just because the national selection process has been so unique, let's say this year, I'm just going to, for anyone who's listening at home, I'm just going to go through a little recap of how they got to these songs in the end. So basically, they had some heats where people could sing cover songs or one of their own older songs, and then an expert jury of expert jury picked 7 people from each heat to then go to the semi-finals. Okie dokie. The semi-final then consisted of 14 artists singing their actual Eurovision entries. A jury then decided 9, not really sure why they wouldn't pick 8 or 10, but anyway, 9 songs to go to the grand final this weekend. The final this weekend will then have 2 rounds. The first round will be singing a cover song and their Eurovision song. What in the Sanremo is this? An expert jury with the likes of Conchita will then select 5 songs to go through to the second round. And then in the second round, the winner is decided by 100% televote. Did I miss anything? Am I actually going slightly crazy here? Or is that just a bizarre process? Troy, what do you think?
I think it's a bizarre process. I think they're trying to outdo Sanremo with the convoluted hoops that these artists are having to jump through, but it makes it all the more fun for us to follow along at home.
Yeah, what are your thoughts, Joel?
Well, it's been a bit of a fluid process, almost like they're trying to engineer who a jury might want to go instead of who the voting public wants to go. So it'll be interesting to see how it falls out.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen a process that just put that much emphasis on the juries that many steps of the way through. But anyway, perhaps it will all work out for the good. The first song we're going to have a little look at today is Bola by Abor and Tiana. An interesting kind of entry that's really caught the eye of, I would say, the international Eurovision fans, and it's definitely streaming very well. Joel, what do you think of this one?
Yeah, this one's a real vibe. It's got a real funky thumping beat to it. Love the studio track, but then chuck it in a live environment, and it's a completely different scenario. I don't know whether those vocals are going to stand up on the stage, and it definitely needs some staging to be elevated. Standing in the one spot for the entire song with a dance song isn't probably the best move to garner votes. And that selfie stick in the early moments was really only utilised for 5 seconds, and then she's left holding it for the rest of the performance. So a couple of odd things there with the staging, but banging track.
Yeah, there's definitely a distinct lack of staging full stop coming out of Germany from that semi-final. So hopefully they beef it up a bit for the final. What do you think, Troy?
I'm a massive fan of this song. I really love the classical music element with the cello there, which is really cool. I think it elevates the song. And at the same time, it's still got that kind of move your feet, pace and energy to it, which I think really helps it along. I thought they had a really confident stage presence. I felt that they were really using what they had available to them. Like you say, it's kind of a minimalist staging approach at the moment. But that said, I think if this were to go through, and obviously it's like you say, it's streaming well. I think this has got radio legs, that really hooky kind of vocal line, and the lyrical kind of hook is really cool. I think this would be a quite a good palate cleanser in a field that's quite I use the word hesitantly, but novelty laden. This is a bit more of a serious offering, and I think that might help kind of juxtapose some of the other offerings that are out there if it were to make its way through.
Yeah, I would like your opinions on one aspect of this because when I saw the name of this entry, I thought the song was about something completely different till I went and looked up lyrics. So I was sort of in the Urban Dictionary definition of baller, someone who's really successful and kind of a bit of a flex and the beat and the sort of pop sensibilities of it kind of made me think, oh, she's just rapping about flexing and just being like rich and successful or something. So then when I went and actually looked up the translation, I was like, oh, wow, okay, this is a song that has quite a deep meaning and is much closer to sort of taking control of your life and sort of eliminating, toxicity from your life and that kind of thing, which was really quite I would like to know if either of you had that experience or if maybe I'm the only one who went down that track.
I didn't go down that track. I just got stuck on the beat.
Fair enough. What about you, Troy?
I kind of was similar to Joel there. I was kind of really into the beat, and I didn't delve too deeply. I did read the lyrics, and I think it complements, I think that it kind of mirrors why it might have that kind of classical element to it, and that kind of two-layered almost song approach. I think that marries up with the song's meaning quite well, but I probably wasn't quite as deep in the depths of the internet as you were looking that one up today, I have to admit. But I do think, it does have an edge, a kind of meaningful edge I like.
Yeah, it definitely elevated it for me once I knew a little bit more about what she was singing about. Now, let's say this does go to Eurovision and it's had quite a bit of competition, really, with other upbeat female songs. Do you think this could stand out, Troy?
I really do. I think it's got it's got more of an urban vibe. And I don't think there is so much of that in the mix at the moment. There's a lot of big songs and big personalities, but not in this vein and not in this look and not with this combination of sounds. And so I think that it could stand out. I don't know if it'll be a winner. Who knows? But I do think it's got legs.
Alrighty. And what about you, Joel? You sounded a little bit more concerned about the vocal, perhaps maybe pulling it down.
Yeah, that's my only concern, that when it's such a minimal staging, everything has to be on point. Everything has to really elevate. And that live vocal just wasn't strong enough for me. But there are so many other elements that do make up for that, which is a really catchy, enjoyable song. And like Troy said, it's going to be something that stands out amongst all those other pop girly bookends with the more risque, controversial type songs and lyrics. This is just a straightforward, more predictable but enjoyable tune.
All right. And then moving on to, I guess, do we think this is a sure win for this national final, or do we think perhaps it does have more competition and it might come second or third or something? What do you reckon, Joel?
I actually don't think it's a sure win at all. I think that one of the next songs we're going to be talking about is going to give it a fair bit of competition, depending on how Germany decide whether public or juries will be dominating. But yeah, let's see who the public thinks will win. Sorry.
Do you agree, Troy?
I don't know. It's always hard to tell. My partner's German, and we have a lot of German family. And there's in German music kind of consumption, there's this real cringe factor where they feel the cringe of Schlager, and they feel the cringe of some really performative music. Particularly the younger folk who are, the dominant streamers and consumers of music mostly. And I wonder, is this song kind of enough to cut through to that market and kind of draw in a new audience? And that might tip the scales. And then again, we just talked about how they've kind of, changed up the way that the competition is running, and that's probably going to have a big effect as well.
Yeah, this is an interesting one for me because it feels like it should be definitely a rusted on top too. But if there's anything I know about the German national final is whatever the international fan favourite song is, that everyone's excited about, expect it to finish about third or fourth and flop in Germany. It's just always the way it seems to go. So it would not surprise me if this isn't even in the top two in the end of things. And that's kind of where I'm at with that. But let's move on to another song that perhaps we were alluding to a little earlier. And forgive my pronunciation. We're going to talk about Nightclub and Frauer Schwanz. Quite an edgy little entry. Joel, did you want to kick us off on this?
Yeah, I actually love Feuerschwanz. This isn't the sort of music that I normally enjoy. And I keep on saying that, but then I give these songs my 12 points in our rankings. It just had everything for me. It's a captivating performance from the very first note. It starts at 11 and doesn't let up. And that staging is just a spectacle. It's exactly what you want to see on the Eurovision stage. You've got golden shooting laser beams on the stage. You've got guitars with shooting sparks out of it. What more can you want on top of a really hard thumping song?
Yeah, it definitely had a bit of everything. There's like a laser show in the middle of that too. Troy, what do you reckon?
Oh, look, I think this is a lot of fun, but I always come at these kind of costumey performances. I feel like I'm at like a dinner theatre or dinner cabaret, perhaps. It's always got a bit of a kitsch edge to it for me. But that's what makes it fun. So I think that they have this layer of trying really hard to be masculine, and it just reads as camp to me, which makes it even more fun for me. So I'm really glad that it's there. It's a catchy song. Am I kind of, bowled over by it and think, will it, run away with the competition? I don't know. Maybe we've seen similar entries do really well previously for Germany in the past. So maybe, again, it'll be the flavour of the moment. But for me, I probably won't be putting this one on repeat.
Yeah, to kind of echo what you're saying in a slightly different way, we have seen entries like this from Germany recently that haven't also done very well also. It's got to kind of bring up Blood and Glitter at this point where, this is a different composition to that. It's got a little bit more of a melodic sensibility about it. I feel like this entry actually does have a little bit more that perhaps a jury could get attached to, or perhaps the public could. There's more complexity, I think, in the design. It's not as repetitive. Bringing in the little bits of English. Yeah. But it does kind of feel like they've gone, oh, hey, we really liked Blood and Glitter in Germany. And, you guys kind of dogged us last time. I reckon we'll send, a slightly better version. And then, this time you guys are going to be like, yay. So that really concerns me quite a bit because it is in a very similar vein in that way. So let's say it does make it to Eurovision. How do you think it will fare against sort of the 20-odd songs that we have right now, Troy?
It's a good question. I think that it fits in the overall vibe of the kind of music that's moving towards Eurovision at the moment. So we've got a lot of, like I mentioned before, some really big personalities, big songs, and big kind of over-the-top kind of content to put out there on stage. I think that fits in with this. Will it have the same kind of virality? Perhaps not. It hasn't got the same kind of edge for me. It hasn't got that same kind of little bits of hook to grab onto, for instance, the Finnish entry or even the Australian entry. There's little bits of virality there that you can grab onto. For me, this probably doesn't have it. It feels a bit similar to other things we've seen in this vein before. So I don't know. What
are your thoughts, Joel?
Yeah, for me, it's all about the performance. And I can just see a lot of people sitting down there in front of their TVs watching Eurovision. They haven't invested in the songs, they haven't heard them, and they'll just get blown away by what they see on the stage. And this is definitely the one that the German public seem to be getting behind, and I can definitely see why they are.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a little bit of a Debbie Downer on this because I actually enjoy it as an entry. Don't get me wrong on a personal level, but you think about their entry from last year, On the Run. Now, that was one that didn't really get much love from Eurovision fans at all the way up to and even past the grand final. And against all odds, it did very, very well at Eurovision. And then something like Blood and Glitter the year before that, did actually have quite a cute little cult following and then didn't do so well at Eurovision. And in a year where they don't have to worry about the juries, because they're in the big five, and there's not really that much jury appeal bait kind of stuff out there, and there's a lot of bombastic entries at Eurovision this year, I really do see this falling through the cracks yet again. So I would be quite concerned, actually, if this went to Eurovision, that they would be looking at another bottom five placing. But apologies to any Germans who might be watching this, but I am worried. But we wouldn't have to worry about it if they don't win. Do we think that this is winning the national final? Do you think so, Joel?
Yeah, I would pretty safely put money on this one winning.
Do you agree, Troy?
I don't know. I think their name is a real cheeky wink, and people might like that, and so I think it'll probably garner a lot of support. But I think this one's quite wide open, to be honest.
I think in an 100% televote year, once they get past the second round, I think this is probably going to win and cruise through. That wouldn't really surprise me. But then again, the German national final always somehow manages to leave me picking up my jaw off the floor at some point. So we'll see how that goes. So that's probably the two big hitters in the Prix area. But let's talk about other songs that might have caught our eye that are perhaps outsiders to do well. Joel, did you have a song?
Yeah, you know what I'm loving this year? Moss Kenner's Nothing Can Stop Love. Gorgeous pared back piano ballad. And in a year when, like you said, everything's so bombastic, everything's so loud, everything's so in your face, this will be a real palate cleanser, I reckon. Again, it probably needs a bit of elevation to the staging, just to add a bit more life and interest to it. I can really see that national final being elevated to the Eurovision stage by that platform lifting up off the ground, or more smoke, or a bigger backing choir, or something like that. But this is one that I can just sit, have on the background, and play on repeat, because it's just a nice song.
Yeah, no, that's a nice little one there. Troy, what's caught your eye?
I really like the Great Leslie. I'm really into this kind of indie pop sound, indie rock sound. Their song These Days, I'm just in love with it. This takes me back to when I was 20, clubbing away. I think they execute that 2000s indie rock sound really, really well. And they remind me a lot of a crossover between the Hives, a famous European indie rock band back from around the early 2000s, and a bit of the Arctic Monkeys in there. And so I'm really digging this. But Liv, you're going to help me. It's been a minute since I've done my guy liner, so I might need some pointers.
Yes, I can definitely help you out with that one. Well, this is fun. We've got three different songs. I didn't know what you guys were going to say before we started recording, but I've got Cosby and I'm Still Here. I'll admit, the first time I heard it, I didn't quite understand it, but then watching it a few times through, there's something familiar about, I guess, the production and the sound that just kind of scratches my brain just right. And I think the first 30 seconds kind of put me off, because her stage show was a little bit, I don't know, go watch it for yourself and make up your own mind. But it sort of got better after the first 30 seconds. And then it was a little bit more like, yes, I can actually enjoy that. It's angsty, it's got a bit of punk, like, I quite enjoy it. So that was definitely another one that was catching my eye. But moving on to the other national final that we're going to discuss today, it is Denmark with Dansk Melodi Grand Prix. We've got 8 songs coming out of Denmark this year, and they're going to do it in the same way that Denmark always does things, which is just a single grand final. Hallelujah at this time of year, because we are all a little bit tired. And there is one round of voting where 3 songs then go to a super final, where there's a second round, and each round does have a 50-50 jury televote split, which is always important to know. The first song we're going to talk about is currently top of the odds, not by much. Not that the odds can tell us much when we're just looking at music videos, but it was also first with the Aussievision team when we went around to everyone and asked which ones they liked. And it is Sissel with Hallucination. Joel, did you want to kick us off on this one?
Oh, I don't know if I'm the right person to kick off on this one, because I'm not a fan. I mean, it's a nice song. I find it a very polite song, but there's just not much interest there for me. There's just no hook that makes me go, yes, this is better than anything else I've heard this year. We all want Denmark to thrive and get great results, but it's almost like at this stage they're trying to NQ. I think the last time they were on the main stage for the grand final was back in 2019 or something like that. So they're well overdue for a grand final performance, but I just don't see this song getting them there. What do you guys think?
I was going to say, Troy, how are your feelings? Are they a little bit more positive or?
I would dance to this hands up in a club like the millennial tragic that I am. This is well within my personal wheelhouse of musical taste. I love that, Eurodance tradition, and this is firmly within that space. But I always wonder with the Eurodance, does it sound dated? And so I've got a particular affinity for it. I always ask that question to myself, is this going to cut through? Is it going to have that right hook? And I've seen it before where it's happened and other times where it hasn't. And it's so hard to predict whether or not a Eurodance song is going to, grab everybody's attention. I think I've been wrong before. I was wrong about Like a Party in Ireland. I felt that way and it's made it through. So who knows? But I would definitely dance to this in a club for sure.
Look, this one's got great songwriting pedigree as well. So Sissel has, of course, contributed, but it's also got a couple of Swedes that have had some great results before, like Melanie Bebe, who co-wrote Saba's Sand last year, and Linnea Deb, who's had a finger in the songwriting for last year's Unforgettable, Marcus and Martinez, Monza's Heroes, she co-wrote. So there's a good team behind it. You can see why there's that popularity there. I just don't jump on board the same as everybody else.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely not with the team on this one. So you've managed to pump it up a little bit, Troy. I'm going to slap it back down again because I too am a fan of this kind of dated Europop sound. This is just not a good example of it. Like, full stop, I'm sorry. Nice little Scandi pop song, no worries. But geez, it's generic to the point of why? Like, if you're going to do generic pop, it's got to be something like Revolution from Sweden this year if you want to actually stand out. But this is just the lyrics, my vision is blurry, but I can see clearly, maybe I'm losing control. Like, why? Put it in Danish so I can't understand it, please. But tell me what jury member or person from the public in a year with this many quality upbeat female numbers at Eurovision is actually going to vote for this. And I'm worried because I do think this is one of the front runners for the competition. But as you said, Joel, there's pretty thin pickings in this national final, unless there's a really dope stage show tucked up someone's sleeve there. But as we know out of Denmark, from many years of watching it for myself now, since 2018, there very rarely is. The staging concepts that come out of Dansk Melodi Grand Prix usually are pretty simple and done well. Yeah, clean but simple and not over the top. So, yeah, we can't really guarantee that something's going to have, a really smash you in the face kind of staging concept. So, yeah, I think she seems like a lovely lady, but the song is just a little bit too generic for me. If it gets to Eurovision, do you guys think it would struggle, Troy?
Look, I think maybe. I do always kind of, like I said, I worry about the Eurodance sound. I think that I love it, and so my judgment is so biased that I'm kind of like, yeah, let's rock out to it, grab a couple of drinks and off we go. But do other people feel that way? I don't know. And as you say, when you line it up against all the other amazing kind of over-the-top campery that we're going to have, is it going to cut through? I'm not sure.
Do you agree, Joel?
Absolutely, yeah. I just don't see a path to success for this song. Tell me, who is this going to steal votes from? When there's so many other songs that pop that are in a similar vein. It's just going to get left behind, I reckon.
Yeah, that's what I am feeling. But let's have a look at a slightly different entry from a former Eurovision contestant. So Tim Shu with Proud. He participated as part of the group A Friend in London from 2011 that did very well, one of Denmark's better results in the modern Eurovision history, basically. I'm not really sure how to feel about this, so I'm going to make someone else talk first. Troy, would you be able to start?
Look, it's my turn to Debbie Downer on something, so coming off my kind of nice guy high. This is not for me, I have to admit. It feels very twee, and it feels very earnest, and it feels so earnest to the point where it's a bit cringe. I feel I'm like, it's too much sugar. I think he has a very beautiful voice, and obviously is very competent at what he does. But I find it feels like it's two songs together. It's got the beautiful kind of beginning, which is very folky and very kind of almost like indie folk sound, which is very pared back and just his voice. And then whoosh, you're into this kind of chorus space that is expansive and his voice is distorted. And I'm kind of like, these are two different songs. And there's no kind of leap between the two. There's no connection between those two. And so I find it quite disjointed. I don't like this one's chances, to be honest. I think he's a beautiful guy with a beautiful voice, but unfortunately this song just, it fell flat for me.
I'm going to agree and disagree on some of that. I do like this guy's chances at winning Dansk Melodi Grand Prix a lot, because this is like the most Danish thing I've ever seen, and definitely goes down the beige route of the types of stuff that my relatives and their countrymen seem to vote for. So that wouldn't surprise me, but I will totally agree with, I've written here, it's naff and saccharine. That's the two things that sort of sprung to mind for me. And on a bit of a technical level, I find the uhs of his vocals a little bit grating. Like, I think stylistically some people might enjoy that, but for me it's a little bit sort of like fingers down the chalkboard type thing. It just doesn't tickle my brain in the right way, unfortunately. And I feel like I can almost predict what his staging is going to be. It's going to be him with a guitar and then a bunch of videos of his childhood playing in the background, and that's going to be it. And I could definitely bet some good money on that right now, so I'll be interested to see if that happens. Joel, I've spoken second, hoping that you're going to say something more positive. So have you got something in there?
Look, I promise that I will be a fan of at least one Dansk Melodi Grand Prix song, but it's not this one. But hand on heart, it's a gorgeous song. It's so sweet. Like, it's the sort of song that your nana's going to love. And the lyrics are pretty. Like, they tell a beautiful story about how we should be proud of our scars and of the battles that we fight. So, like, great message, but just overly vanilla. Which definitely has an audience, but it's just not the three of us, I guess.
Totally agree. There definitely are people who will love this, and to be honest, I always do have a little bit of a blind spot for some of these Danish entries that do cut through occasionally at Eurovision, like Leonora from a couple of years ago, for instance. I thought there was no way that something as sweet as that could do well, and then it did. So speaking of Eurovision, if this were to go, Joel, how do you think it might do? Because it's going to stand out.
It is going to stand out. Again, like, where do we have a guy with a guitar singing a twee, sweet little song? So it's got a point of difference. It's definitely got a better chance than Sissal, I reckon. But does it have a chance to make the grand final? Probably not.
Gonna have to agree on that. Troy, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I personally, I don't think that it would find a big kind of audience out there. I think it's potentially targeting, the nanas that are watching, or perhaps the tweens, and that's fine. I think that's completely valid. I mean, there has been many a successful music career doing that, but when you're comparing it to some of the really edgy, fun, provocative things, I just think that it'll feel it's a lot of sizzle and no bang.
I have to agree that it would stand out at Eurovision, and I think it actually could potentially be moderately successful, just because it's filling a little bit of a hole that no other entry is kind of doing at the moment. And there are occasionally, I want to say every 5 years, there's hunger for this kind of entry honestly. And it's been about 5 years since Denmark sent something really twee like this, and it did well. So perhaps this is the year. Let's talk about a third entry then. We're all going to just talk about one in particular that has caught our eye. Joel, I'll let you go first.
Okay, so my turn to be excited about a song from Denmark. I am loving Ardor II's The Unluckiest Boy Alive. It is such a great tune. And it's just something that's so different and just going to stand out. I love his vocal quirks. It's a really captivating dance beat to it. And it's just a really optimistic and uplifting song. This guy's been trying to get into Dansk Melodi Grand Prix since last year, wasn't successful, doesn't have any management, so he's self-submitted a song. It's a great story, so really keen to see what he brings to the live stage with this one.
Oh, bless. This did very well, actually, with our team when I looked at the rankings.
Got my 12 points.
It did, and I think it might have gotten 1 or 2 other 12 points. I certainly don't quite gel with it, but that's okay. Troy, what do you reckon?
Tragically, I have picked the same song. I also really enjoy this song. I really connected with it. I think that comparing it to our last entrant, it does a similar kind of thing with the lyrics and the message. It's quite, if you were to pare it back and read them as poems, you're like, these are very saccharine. I think, that kind of woe is me kind of element to it is a bit much. Then you pair it with the instrumentation and sound and his really unique voice, and it just works. I just think it has that kind of vehicle that lets that message come through, and sometimes it can be even more compelling when you put a kind of perhaps sad or perhaps longing message with an upbeat beat. It can really make it a lot more dynamic, and so I think he's managed to do that really well. And his voice is so interesting to listen to. It's not a voice that you kind of hear very often on the radio, for instance. And so I really like this. I dig it. Into the sentiment, I think we've all been there where we can say, oh, I'm just the worst person in the world. I think everyone can kind of relate to that. So I think this is great. And I hope it does really well and get some love.
Well, this is good because I think Denmark doesn't have much in the way of polarizing entries because they all can sometimes feel a little bit, mid-range of death kind of thing. So the fact that you two are gushing over it, and I honestly can't stand listening to it, is probably a good thing because, when songs do get to Eurovision and whatnot, you don't vote for your 8th favourite song and 10th favourite song. Do you know what I mean? You're not picking up the phone for that. You're picking up the one that you're going, oh my God, I really love this. And then the people who don't like it, that's fine. So good to hear a little bit of polarisation there. Well, I've got 2 quick songs then, because, I'll just fill in the gap there. My favourite, and the one I think that had actually the most potential at Eurovision, is Andreas Kruse with Hear My Prayer. For me, I think this is just within the comfort zone for Danes to actually vote for it and send it, but it does have a slightly more edgy production than its usual offerings, especially that last 30 seconds, which feels like he kind of went slightly down a Nemo path and then sort of backed out and went about 5% in and then went, I can't be Nemo, and then back out again. But I do appreciate that there was an attempt at a really big vocal there. I do think he has the most compelling vocal package here, at least from the studio. There's a good contemporary sensibility about it. For me, I could just picture this appealing to both the juries and the public in Denmark. It's always a little hard to predict exactly what they want, but for me, this kind of jumped out. And another one that jumped out, which actually came dead last in the Aussievision jury rankings, was Herve Tour and Ale Ale. Sorry, I really butchered that. But this is just quite an interesting pop sound for Danish music, where it's got that little sort of tropical beat. It's got a little bit of swagger. Don't get me wrong, it's definitely Denmark's version of a tropical beat and something with a little bit of groove to it type thing. Like it's still very pared back and within their comfort box. But I love the Danish language. I have a lot of Danish family and I listen to it all the time. So to hear something in Danish also is very exciting for me and would be very nice at Eurovision. Did either of you like either of those songs or not really? I'll let you speak,
Definitely
Troy
pick the
or
safe
Joel.
songs.
The
I
safe
think
songs? Oh, no way. They were the most edgy ones if you ask me. But anyway, Joel, did you have anything else to say?
Oh, look, I'm with you. Whenever you get to hear a native language on the stage, it's a great thing. So if the Danes do get behind this, then I'll get behind it with them.
Awesome. Troy?
I liked Ale Ale as well. I thought it was very kind of. It feels like a soccer song. You could go and hear this in a pub after the soccer match and kind of get on board with it a little bit. But it's not a full soccer song, and so it's still got a bit of, a bit there for everybody. I'm not going to rave about it though. I feel like in that category of music, there's a lot of better offerings, but perhaps you're saying, what you're picking up on there is the kind of cultural environment that it's in, and maybe it's punching hard in that space for that cultural environment. So yeah, giving it props as well.
Well, let's wrap this up by just going for our predictions, I think, on what feels like a fairly open year of Dansk Melodi Grand Prix, where it feels like maybe a few songs could perhaps jump out of the pack, and also who knows what juries are doing sometimes. Troy, who's your prediction for taking out this competition?
I think I know you're hoping for me to say something shocking and kind of left field, but I do think it's going to be the favourite. I think that, as you've kind of alluded to, they like to play a safe game. They don't like to run the risk of any potential embarrassments, and so I think that the favourite is probably likely to cruise on through.
All right, so your team Sissel. Joel, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree with a caveat because I do see a place for Proud with the right corny sort of staging, like you mentioned, with the childhood photos in the background. If that's amped up, then I can see that connecting and getting jury and public votes.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Proud and Tim Shu as well, actually. I can just visualize it all happening right in front of me and him just cruising to another Eurovision at this rate. So he's definitely who I would be keeping an eye on. Well, thank you so much for your time, Joel and Troy, for deep diving into Germany and Denmark's national finals that are completing this Sunday morning in Australia and Saturday night in Europe. Everyone have a fabulous day, and we'll catch you in the next one. See ya.
Bye.